Hello everybody and welcome. In this week's video, we are going to be talking about blending multiple exposures together in order to make one nice image. This is a technique that many professional photographers are using in order to enhance their images and really make the light look nice, because a lot of times that good light hits before you get those good clouds. So I want to show you guys how to blend exposures. This is something that's going to be useful for multiple different techniques, whether you want to do a sky swap, a focus stack, whatever it is, wherever you need to blend exposures, even in HDR, this tutorial is going to help you guys to do that. So I want to take a quick second and mention that I also am leading in-person workshops this next year, and my schedule has been posted online. If you guys are potentially interested in learning from me in person, I've went ahead and left a link in the description down below to where you can find those workshops. These are all immersive workshops where I take you out to a great location with a few other photographers and we capture some amazing images. I teach you everything from how I shoot my photos to how I edit my photos and everything in between. I'm there for you all day, every day, to ask questions and to work with. And it's just a really great time. You're going to make a lot of great friends. You're going to have a really good time. And I'm really excited to be leading them next year. So I hope you'll consider joining me. Hit the link down below in my bio. All right, guys. So you're going to need Photoshop for this tutorial. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, so we're going to be using Photoshop to do this tutorial. It's just way easier to do in Photoshop than any other program. So you can see here, we've got this nice sun star, nice light on the foreground, but we've got three images here that we are going to be combining. It's not too terrible to do. It's pretty easy. I'm going to show you guys exactly how. So the reason why we want to combine these images is because, first of all, we have the background and the foreground. You can see right here is not in focus. So by having a foreground image, we can have this in focus. This is essentially just a focus stack. And then we will get the clouds in the background to have all three to make our final image. Now you can see that this is a pretty nice sky, but the scene is boring because there's no light hitting the foreground. So professional photographers will commonly use this technique where they blend in an exposure from maybe earlier where the sun was hitting with that exposure from later where there's some nice clouds. So I'm going to show you guys exactly how to do that with an image like this where we are focus stacking. First thing that we want to do here is blend these two exposures, the background and the foreground, together. And that is really easily done. All that we're going to do is throw a layer mask down here onto our background layer. Now we can come down here and find these spots where our background is not in focus. All that we're doing is painting black here onto our layer mask to hide this layer here, which is our background layer, to show through to the foreground layer. So I'm going to grab my brush tool here. I'm going to make sure that I am at 0% hardness. The size is this, a little bit bigger than this would be good. I'm going to do that using the closing bracket key diagonal to the delete key. And then we're going to bring the opacity up to 100. Now you can zoom in by hitting Command plus on a Mac or Control plus on a PC, and make sure that you have a black brush and then just start painting. So you can see now that we are painting away that part that's not in focus. And we can even come over here and get this in focus as well. Maybe zoom in. And we can press X to toggle between painting black and white. You just want to make sure that the spots that are in the most focus are painted on. And you can see maybe I should have taken another focus stacked image, but this is fine. This is kind of what we're working with. So that's a pretty good job there, making that snow kind of appear a little bit better now. So you can see we've got this layer mask here. We're painting, again, we are painting black onto the background layer to hide the background layer where it is blurry, like right in here. And we're allowing it to show through to this foreground layer, which has just the foreground in focus. So that is looking good to me. Now I'm going to bring this clouds layer up to the top, and we're just going to toggle that. Okay, so I think what I want to do here is throw these two in a group and call this the light group. And then that way we know this is the light, this is the clouds. Let's do light plus foreground. And now we know we need a mask in the clouds. So the best way to do this here is actually going to be to select this layer. What we're going to do is go up to select, and we're going to go to color range. Now the color range allows us to make a selection of the image. And what we want here is a selection where the tree and the foreground are separated from the sky. Now it's most important, let me go back to image here. You can see the image over here. It is most important that we have the tree masked out. It's really easy to mask out the horizon with a brush, but the tree is going to be a huge pain in the butt because it sticks into the sky. So that is the difficult thing. We want to make sure that our mask here, keep in mind we're making a mask in this color range. When I click on a spot, it's just choosing a sampled color to choose from. We want to make sure that the tree is quite white and the background is quite black. So that's looking pretty good. Now we can start sliding things around here. I think I'm pretty happy with the fuzziness right about there. I'm going to hit OK, and we are going to let that load out. Now we can apply this as a layer mask on this clouds layer by hitting the layer mask button. But now the one thing you'll notice is we are inverted on our mask. We actually want to select the sky and not the tree, but what we can do is hit Command I. The reason I selected the tree and then inversed it is because I knew that the tree would give me a better selection than selecting the sky and trying to mask out the tree. So now that we have this going for us, what we can do is go back to the image, and now you can see it's starting to come along, but it still needs a lot of help. Let's go ahead and go back to the image here. I'm going to hit Command L to bring up a levels adjustment while I'm selected on the layer mask. And again, I should have mentioned, if you want to view the layer mask, you can't just click on it. You have to Alt click on it in order to see it. So again, I'm going to hit Command L or Control L on a PC. Then I'm just simply going to drag these in. And this is essentially just going to add a little bit more contrast to make sure, we want to make sure this tree is completely black and the sky is completely white. That's looking pretty good to me. I'm gonna go ahead and hit OK. Let that load out. You can see it's still looking all right. Not great, but it's looking all right. So what we wanna do now is go in here, go back to our layer mask. I wanna go up to the polygonal lasso tool, and I'm just gonna click around. Now I wanna make a good selection of the foreground, but I don't wanna run it up to the edge because we're gonna do that with a brush after this. So I'm just gonna get relatively close here. Let's hit Command minus to zoom out. And you can see I just really quickly clicked across, clicked down, clicked over, clicked back up, and made a selection. So this bottom half is selected now. I'm gonna go to Edit, and I'm gonna go down to Fill. We're gonna fill this with black. So that way the foreground is not selected. So now when we go back, I'm gonna hit Command D. You can see we are starting to look really good now. The foreground is completely masked out, and we have the sky in here. Now the tree around here with the light, it does not look good. So what we're gonna do now on the horizon, because you can see our mask on the horizon is still a little wishy-washy, is we're just going to paint in with a brush, and we're just going to make it nice and soft, and we're just gonna feather it in essentially. So a lot of times people try and make these kind of masks and they try and do it right up to the edge and it just doesn't look realistic. So what I always recommend is just grabbing the brush tool and just feathering it in, making it a really, really soft effect. So I've got my brush tool. Again, we're gonna wanna be on 0% hardness. This time, let's go down to about 25% opacity. And let's just start clicking. And I actually want to paint black. And just come in here. Now I wanna make sure, obviously, that this sunspot is totally masked out of our clouds layer because we do want that sun in there. I'm just gonna start painting along the horizon here. Same thing over here. So you can see that by doing this, we're actually painting in a little bit of the light that was hitting that isn't hitting in this clouds image without the background layer. So I'm just painting this in slowly. Now that's looking pretty good. So let's go ahead and zoom back out. It is looking really good. Now you could essentially go in and touch things up. One thing that you want to make sure is that this particular spot right here, we will go look at the layer mask, is completely black. We want that sun to be completely black. I've seen a lot of really bad blends, and I don't want you guys to make this mistake where people will have the sun like this, where it's partially coming through. It doesn't look realistic, guys. It's totally fine for it to be blown out. That looks good. That sun star is perfectly hitting the side of that tree. And now you can see that we've got those nice clouds. We've got this nice foreground. The light just adds so much to the image. So of course you can go in with your brush tool and you can touch things up. Perhaps there was too much light on the mountains here. You could come back in with a white brush, paint some of that out. The one thing you want to watch out for is you'll see that when I paint with this white brush, we create kind of a blurry edge there. So you want to make sure on something like that, the image may be slightly moved. You can see there the mountains are a couple pixels too low, but that is something that if you go in with a soft brush, you can usually fix up yourself just by kind of painting this in. And you just want to make this look realistic. And this is a lot easier to do because I actually captured these clouds behind this mountain. Now, this would be much more challenging if, say, I shot these clouds on a totally different day in a totally different area. But that is why even if you're going to do a sky swap like this, I highly recommend you actually shoot it in the location and then just blend it with the exposure with light. You can see the before and the after, and you can see just how much depth that adds to my photo. I mean, this brings this photo from an average photo to one that has some beautiful light that looks awesome, one that belongs in my portfolio. So that is exactly how I go about blending multiple exposures like a sky swap like that. Hopefully this was helpful for you guys. I'm always happy to answer questions if you have them. All right, guys, that's a wrap. Really hope this tutorial was helpful for you guys. As I mentioned before, I'm always happy to answer any questions you guys have. Each image is special and specific, so these exact settings aren't going to work on every image, but you can kind of follow this guide and tweak your settings as you see fit to make your blends seamless. Ultimately, that's what we're going for here. We want seamless blends. We don't want people to be able to tell that we blended multiple exposures. So seamless is important, and that's why we use the brush tool with a high feather. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Again, if you learned anything or if you just like this video, please make sure to like and subscribe. It helps me grow my YouTube channel and continue to produce these free videos for you guys. Thank you so much, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.